everyone, welcome back. Today I have for you a quick and easy project which also makes a great DIY gift. And you probably have enough scrap wood in your pile to make this project. But before we get started, a quick shout out to Burnsomatic for sponsoring this project. I used their BZ4500HS blowtorch to add some cool effects. Now let's get started. I cut up a 1x10 board I already had to get a square piece for the board. You could also glue up a couple of smaller width boards if you need to. The sides are made from 1x2 boards, so I cut those up. And the inside grid is made using 5/8" dowels, which I cut down as well. You can find all the measurements in the plans on my site, and the link to that is in the description below. Once everything was cut, I measured and dry fit everything on the board. Now for the X's and O's. I printed them out on a piece of paper. A template for them is included in the plans as well. I used spray adhesive to glue them onto a scrap pine board. And then I started cutting them out using my jigsaw. I think this was the hardest part of this project because I am not that great with these detailed cuts. I knew that the insides of the O's were going to be the most challenging, so I tackled them first. I am using a scroll cut blade on my jigsaw. A scroll saw would actually be perfect for this project, but I don't have one. I think I spent about 80% of my time cutting out those O's. The X's were pretty straightforward to cut. Once they were all done, I tried to remove as much paper as I could by hand, and then I used a 120 grit sandpaper and just sanded it all off. I also took this time to sand out any uneven sides. For the insides of the O's and the deep corners of the X's, I used a rotary tool. Now it's time to add some fun effects using Shaosugiban. You want to do this on a concrete surface away from anything flammable. I laid down all of the boards in my driveway. I am using the BZ4500HS torch with the Burnsomatic propane. The torch simply screws on tight onto the propane cylinder, and you can turn it on with the trigger. For the main board, I wanted to keep it light, so I only made one pass. But as you're going over the boards with it, be sure to move your hands constantly so that you're not on one spot for too long. On the edges and the inside grid, I wanted a dark char. So I moved my hand a little bit slower, and I also went over them a couple of times. Then I used a sanding sponge to remove the loose ash and went over the boards with the torch one more time to get an even darker char. Since I needed all the three sides of the grid and the sides to be as dark as possible, I waited for them to cool down for a few minutes and then turned them over and torched them again. Now for the X's and O's. I was going for the X's to be dark and the O's to be light. So for the first pass, I went over all of them with the torch, sanded them, turned them over, and torched them again. Then for the X's, I repeated the torching process a couple more times and turned them all around to get the char evenly on all edges and sides. Once everything was perfectly charred, I gave them all a sand to remove all the loose ash with a sanding sponge and got ready to assemble. Assembling the board is super easy. I just used wood glue and brad nails to attach the sides. For the grid, I used wood glue and put them at their spots. I was originally going to nail them in, but I decided to simply let them glue up and added a weight on them so that the top was smooth without any nail holes. At this point, I decided to paint the O's with metallic white craft paint because I felt like the board was too brown and it just needed that little pop. I like that you can see the charred wood grain through the paint as well. Now here is a great way to personalize this gift. Use a heat-activated marker to write a message and then torch it to reveal it. I should have cleaned out the excess glue before doing this, but now you know what you should do if you make this. To seal everything, I gave it a couple coats of clear spray sealer. And that is a simple and quick tic-tac-toe game board. I left it on my coffee table and the kids love having a quick game as they are passing by. And of course, it makes a great handmade gift too. If you want to see more projects using a blowtorch, take a look at this playlist. Or you might like these simple, easy woodworking projects as well. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future projects.